I've got two quick Guild Wars 2 stories to talk about. First off, the release date for Heart of Thorns, October 23rd. We'll get to the other part afterwards, and that's what content is going to be in Heart of Thorns. Let's talk first about the release date. Now, up until now, we've had a few beta weekends to try out the advanced classes. I don't think that's the terminology they use. I can't remember what it was, but basically, you level a class, or they don't call them classes, you level a profession up to level 80, and at that point, you can start moving into a more specialized version of that class, which basically has extra weapon types and extra abilities to slot into your utility skills on the right-hand side of your combat bar. Now, during each beta weekend, has it been every beta weekend that they've done it? Well, during each beta weekend, maybe with exception, they've shown us a new advanced class. Now, the new advanced classes usually are very, very underpowered during the first beta weekend. They receive feedback from the players, and then they retune it so that the advanced class is more powerful. And most people would say now then they go a little too far and make that profession overpowered. So they start underpowered, we give them feedback, then they go to overpowered, we give them feedback, then they bring them back down, and they're looking for that sweet spot, right? Well, between now and October 23rd, which I think I said is only, 55 days away from the date that I recorded this, my concern here is we're not going to have a whole lot of beta weekends left to test. And apparently, if I count correctly, we still have 3 advanced classes to get. Now, here's what I think that they're going to do. Because we are only going to have a few beta weekends left, my guess is that we're going to get multiple classes at the same time. This really surprises me. I was shocked that it was coming out in October 23rd. I expected December at the earliest for Heart of Thorns to come out. It almost feels like it was rushed, like they didn't mean to announce it, or that they didn't mean to put that date out, or that they were forced to put that date out. Now, I don't have any inside info here. It's just what it feels like. And I'm not so sure that October 23rd is a good idea. I'm not sure if Heart of Thorns is ready. That being said, I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm very excited about Heart of Thorns, and I really need to get leveling my Elementalist so that I can try out the advanced profession for Elementalist, which is the Tempest. They get a war horn, and they can control all kinds of cool stuff with that war horn. Alright, so that is the first part of Guild Wars 2 news for today. The second part, which was actually talked about today at PAX Prime, that was today. Well, it started today. Did it start today? It either started yesterday or today, but the Guild Wars 2 part of PAX Prime was today, and they announced that they're bringing raids to Guild Wars 2. Now, first off, I want you to stop thinking about what raids are in other games. Okay, in Guild Wars 2, they've laid out what they are. They said that raids are 10-player instanced content. First off, that right there is huge. Up until now, if you were doing anything with more than 5 players, it was out in the open world. And that meant that there were usually like 1 million players around, and it just looked like a ridiculous cluster. You can finish that word for me. So instance content is important, okay? So they said raids are 10-player instance content that will introduce very challenging bosses, epic encounters, and more. And we're building them on top of our amazing combat and dynamic event system to create a variety of difficult challenges that will require your raiding team to bring a high level of skill, strategy, and coordination in order to succeed. All right. Now, reading that, I'm excited. I like the combat in Guild Wars 2 a lot. I like challenging content. And for the most part, whenever we've done like world bosses and stuff, it's not really all that challenging. It just kind of turns into a Zerg fest where people are just throwing bodies at the boss until it dies. This seems like they're going to go the route of other games and make sure that the raid difficulty is much higher, and you have to make sure that you're coordinated with your group in order to win. Now, they also go on to say, expecting to be able to just watch the UI to beat a boss? Guess again. Raiding in Guild Wars 2 is an action-oriented, engaging experience. You'll have to actively manage your position, dodge, coordinate on objectives, and much more. So what they're saying here, well, first off, if you're a healer in other games, that doesn't really apply to Guild Wars 2. They don't have healing in Guild Wars 2 the same way that it is in other games. It's a lot more akin to WildStar, but even then, every character in Guild Wars 2 is responsible for their own safety in the game. So there is no tank to make sure that you're not getting beat on. There is no healer to save you if you've stood in the circle too long. It's up to you to dodge out of the way and make sure that you're doing your job in order to help your team succeed. So I really think that that's awesome. It's interesting to me, and I like that they're bringing raids. Now, I do wish that they were 5-man raids, because part of, and some people are going to say to me, well, a 5-man raid is just a dungeon. But let me explain. The way that I envision the perfect raid is just not an increase in the number of players, but an increase in the difficulty of the encounters that you're going to come up against, as well as being able to save what you've done. So let's say on Monday, I'm raiding with my group. We down 2 bosses in the raid instance. We save that we've downed those 2 bosses. Maybe on Thursday we can meet up again and we can try and go for boss 3 and boss 4. That's really cool. That's what I consider to be raiding. I don't like that they increased it to 10 players, but maybe it'll be okay. I just worry that there's too much stuff going on the screen. Usually whenever you're in a larger group in Guild Wars 2, all the different spell effects kind of make the screen unwatchable, especially because the telegraph circles are hard to see. You get all these explosions happening on the screen, and there's this very thin red circle that says, hey, don't stand in this circle, but sometimes it's hard to see that circle. And it's not a skill thing, it's just, I can't see it. So I hope that what would be best is if they would steal the telegraph circles from WildStar, because those are easy to see and they have all these cool different shapes, and it really makes it interesting. So take a hint from your buddies over at NCSoft ArenaNet and steal those telegraphs from WildStar. All right, so what else did they say about raids? Well, they said that raids will also tie into our new advanced mastery system of progression. We'll be introducing new mastery tracks and abilities that will be closely tied to progressing through raids, which our designers will be talking about in an upcoming blog. So we'll probably get more information soon. So I really like their idea for raiding. They said that raids in Guild Wars 2 are not about waiting to have fun. You don't have to wait for your healer to get online. Then they said our build customization and weapon swapping systems allow anyone to change their build to meet a particular challenge. So this is one thing that I am really happy about. And some people think that it's not a good idea, but build locking. So basically, some people were saying if we're going to have raids in Guild Wars 2, what we would like is for when you start the raid, that it locks your build, and that's the traits and stuff that you've picked and the weapons that you've selected, and you have to stay with those until you finish it, or until you exit. And you can't switch it mid-raid. I do think that that's good, because then people are saying, all right, well, I'm going to make sure that I have this, because I'm bringing vulnerability to the raid. And that means nobody else has to do that, so then they can focus on some other condition in the game. Now, I really like that idea. However, there is a good reason why you don't want to do that. And that is, what if Jimmy can't come today. So now we don't have our vulnerability thing, even though we've saved our raid from last time. Now we've killed boss 1 and boss 2, and Jimmy was our weakness. He was bringing weakness to the table. So he couldn't come today, and now we don't have weakness, and it's going to be harder for us to progress through these bosses. So instead, what they're doing is they're saying, all right, you can switch your build, you can switch your gear, and you can do that anytime you want through the raid, except for during combat. I think that's good and bad. Curious as to what you guys think about that. They said the first raid, in the first raid wing, players will face 3 awesome, diverse, and very challenging bosses, as well as an epic event that will leave players literally running for their lives. This sounds awesome. I envision the end of a Metroid game where you're trying to escape, spoilers, before everything blows up. You know, that would be really cool. Especially if it was a jumping puzzle, which is one of my favorite things in Guild Wars 2. Then they said, each encounter will introduce different mechanics that require unique strategies to overcome and will be a big accomplishment if defeated. For each encounter, our goal is that you'll need to face it many times to learn how to defeat it. I love this. I like bashing my head against a wall trying to learn a fight. I don't like watching a video online to see how the fight is supposed to go and then trying to replicate it myself. So hopefully the developers keep that in mind when making these encounters to make sure that the encounters are varied enough and different enough so that when the way that one person or one group goes up against it isn't necessarily going to be the exact same way that you go up against it as a different group. Just a thought from me. Now, they also said, and this is an even bigger announcement, is that Guild Wars, and this is starting today, is now free to play. Okay, so up until now, the way that Guild Wars 2 worked was that you would buy the game, and there's no subscription, and you just play it. And that has been fantastic, and I really like it. However, in order to get more people playing, not that the game doesn't have a lot of people, because it does, but in order to get more people playing, they want to go free to play for the core game. That's the original Guild Wars 2. Now, Heart of Thorns, if you buy it, comes, like, you have access to everything that came before. If you are just a free-to-play person, then you don't get the Heart of Thorns stuff, and there's a few things that they put into place to make the free-to-play model better. And the reason for this is making sure that they protect the current community to make it as easy as possible for you to introduce this game to your friends without having too much spam. So here's how they're going to do the free accounts. Free accounts will start with fewer character slots and bag slots than the paid version of the game. I think that's totally fair. It's free. What do I care? However, you'll still get the full complement of slots as soon as you buy Heart of Thorns. So you start out with, and they didn't say how many, I'm guessing probably 1 or 2 character slots. And then, if you buy Heart of Thorns, you'll have access to more. So that's cool. Secondly, they said free accounts will have some chat restrictions and economy restrictions so they can't be used to disrupt the game or other players, gold sellers. So free accounts can use local chat, and that's where you just say something, and just the people that are nearby you can hear what you're saying. They can also use whispers, but they can't use map chat. So you can't shout to the zone, "Hey, buy gold at this website." And then with whispers, you can both start a new conversation and reply to existing conversations, but you are limited to starting a new conversation no more than once every 30 seconds. So that means that you can't have a gold spammer log in on a character and then just start, having a computer program go through and start sending whispers to everybody that they can see that's online. Hey, go to this website and buy gold. It's really irritating when they do that. Okay. Free accounts also can buy and sell common goods on the trading post. However, they can't mail gold or items directly to other players. So all of these things that they also can't trade gold for gems or access guild vaults. So all of these things that they're doing is to make sure that the free to play isn't going to be abused by the gold sellers and scammers. Then they said, third, free accounts will have some restrictions to prevent them from skipping ahead to places where they could be used to disrupt the game. They must play to level 10 before leaving the starter zones, to level 30 before using LFG, and to level 60 before using World versus World. So let's talk about each one of those individually. They must play to level 10 before leaving the starter zones. That's good, because otherwise, what this is doing, it's slowing down how much time you need in order to get into the regular zones where you can try and disrupt people. Okay, so that's awesome. You have to be level 30 before using LFG. Also great. If you have to level all the way up to 30, then you will have time to learn how the game works. And what would usually happen, what I think they're using this for is two things. First, to have free players learn the game before they try and jump in LFG. Okay. And secondly, if you get into a party, well, you can say anything you want, right? So if you get into this party at level 1, you can see that there's a party looking for a group. You just join that group real quick, and then you can spam them. So again, they're trying to combat the spam that comes from gold sellers. Then level 60, you have to be level 60 before using World versus World. I think that this is also good because level 1 characters in World versus World, it's not very good. They usually die pretty quickly, and then people die trying to res them. They also said that you can play PvP immediately, but you must get to rank 20 before using custom and unranked arenas. So that's also very interesting. And I don't think that that's so much to protect the community as so much as to encourage people who are really enjoying PvP to actually buy Heart of Thorns and move on. So they said that they've got some testing to do, and none of this stuff is locked down. They're just letting us know ahead of time. So those are the Guild Wars 2 news items for today. What do you guys think about these changes? Do you think they're good? Do you think they're bad? Are you upset about free to play? I know a lot of people are. I'm not. More people playing the game means that the world will feel more alive. Are you upset about raids? I'm not. I think that they look awesome, and I'm excited about it. I just wish that they had a 5-man option so that because I think it makes it difficult just to gather 10 people sometimes. Anyway, let me know what you think.